Yes, welcome along to ED Extra here at Climate Week NYC. The conversations are ongoing. There's a huge energy around the place. We've just come out of the session actually, and I'm delighted to be joined by one of the speakers from that session, Veena Balakrishnan, who is one of the co-founders of the Youth Negotiators Academy. Veena, thanks so much for joining us on ED Extra. Talk to us first of all about that session you've just come out of. It was so lively.
Oh, thank you. So this session was about Mission 2025. It was a lot about how do we bring in that multi-sectoral collaboration, governments, businesses, young people, all sorts of stakeholders who need to be involved in the climate discussions, conversations and decision making. And I was bringing the perspective of how can young people be a part of the country's delegations, because we're talking about there's a need for change in leadership, and we've worked with certain set of people so far and looks like it didn't work. That's why we're talking about leadership crisis. So maybe it's time to change, look at new leadership, youth leadership, and maybe that would get us to that progressive outcomes we're looking for.
And that brings in your academy really nicely. So for our audience who may not be aware of the academy and the work that you do, talk to us about your founding of it and what your mission is.
Absolutely. The journey for us started right after COP26 in Glasgow. So the COP was in November, and then we founded this in January of 2022. So it was about, all of us had, we're 4 co-founders and we had different reasons why, or reflections that kind of got us together to think about a need for that systemic change. Personally, for me, it was about being inside one of the negotiation rooms, looking at the homogeneous composition. Everybody looks of the same age, almost the same hair color, mostly male. And I was wondering, why are young people who are actually looking like me, my age, outside the negotiation rooms? They were protesting, they were asking, they were bringing so much energy into the space, really demanding and lobbying the negotiators and the decision makers for progressive outcomes, but none of them were inside. Why? So that was the question that started us thinking about it, and we realized that we need to figure out a way to work with the system and disrupt the system at the same time. So what we do at the Academy is train young people as diplomats, as climate negotiators for their respective countries. So it's a tripartite relationship. So we work with the country ministry that works with the UNFCCC directly. So it's often either the Ministry of Environment or Ministry of Foreign Affairs, depending on the different, the federal, national setup in the country, And we ask them to nominate young people to us, and we then take care of training them and building capacity, giving them the network, safe spaces, everything that they need for being effective leaders inside the negotiations. In turn, we request the country to give them the negotiation mandate that is needed for them to be equally representing themselves inside the rooms. They also have the opportunity to engage with the delegations ahead of the COPs, so they are able to have the necessary information and the documents that they need to be presenting themselves and representing their countries at the upcoming COP.
Yeah, and I suppose we're talking at a great time as well for this particular conversation around the youth voice and youth empowerment. You mentioned we've got Climate Week NYC, we've got 2 COP16s coming up, and we've got COP29 just around the corner, so the time for great negotiation is now. What for you makes a really great negotiator?
For me, I believe that a good negotiator is somebody who is able to bring consensus. We keep talking about consensus, and the reason being the UNFCCC process is a consensus-driven process. Without consensus, no decision can go forward, which means that you need to be somebody who is able to build those relationships based on trust, able to get people towards your side for the decisions that you're trying to push for. So you need to be a leader, and you also need to make sure that you have followers.
Well, as you can hear, we're being called into other sessions here around the event, but I wanted to close with one question for you, which is bringing this back to EDI's audience of businesses, sustainability, net zero professionals who work within those companies. What role can or should businesses be playing in really empowering more youth, providing more of a platform for youth, and ultimately empowering this next generation of youth negotiators?
Thank you. I think, like I started, it's all about that multi-stakeholder collaboration and relationship building, because we all need to come together to sort of push for the things that we're all asking for. When we talk about young people especially, one of the biggest barriers that they face is funding themselves for the kind of initiatives that they do, because they're just starting off their careers as professionals, which means they do not have, backup funding that they have, or a trust fund. So often they're also like working part-time and trying to do impact work part-time. That leads to burnout, which is not fair. And I've also recognized that a lot of climate funding goes to non-youth-led organizations than youth-led organizations. So I know that corporations have their own corporate responsibility sort of funding that goes out as well. And if you ask me, that would be a big ask from my side, to say, look for youth-led initiatives that are aligning with your values. Try to invest in the young people and the future generations, because I'm certain if they're able to do something inside your organization, they can also do outside in the multilateral system, and they can also bring in the change that you're all looking for.
Some great points, great advice. There's plenty more, I'm pleased to say, youth speakers here at Climate Week NYC throughout the week, so hopefully we'll try and speak to one or two more. Veena, thanks so much for your time. Join us again for another episode, hopefully very soon, on ED Extra.